Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session, Gamifying Inclusion, How Engagement Fuels Financial Empowerment. It's an honor really to be part of this new Financial Inclusion Week and have such a great audience today. We're very excited. Thank you for taking the time to join us. And we hope that you end up the session with some good insights on what we consider a very impactful and timely manner. In today's uncertain economic climate, the need to build financial resilience has been never been greater, especially for vulnerable populations that are more who often face more income volatility and have fewer safety nets. So that's exactly where we consider that gamification can play a unique role. Gamification, it's often misunderstood as just like having a wheel spin or a point system embedded into some experience. But in reality, what we consider and where we see its value is its purpose. It's about empowering people to take control of their finances while making it fun, while making it easy and friendly. Like to establish healthy financial behaviors through these mechanics, like saving regularly, making on-time payments, using digital tools, should be rewarding, engaging, and fun. So to set the context of what we're gonna discuss, I'm just gonna go over some really quick slides of what we do at Flourish FI. We basically are a fintech that license a white label gamification and loyalty platform to financial institutions across the Americas. If we go to the next slide, and how we do it is basically we help banks through missions, challenges, and personalized rewards to shape healthier financial habits. We use segmentation, real-time insights to deliver targeted activations. And what we do basically is we have different mechanics like spin the wheel, scratch and win, where clients, for example, can redeem the points that they earn for completing missions like saving, increasing your savings balance, paying your loan on time, paying your bills via the app, different things that are like positive in enhancing positive financial habits. And you can use those points that you earn by completing those missions to earn and play chance to win games. We also have like level systems where clients get rewarded and recognized for achieving different results. And also we have contextual campaigns, like they are guaranteed prizes upon completing some specific missions for some segments. To help them like build a stronger financial habit. So I think uh, uh, we can discontinue sharing screen right now. We are now working with different institutions in Brazil, Mexico, Chile, Bolivia, and the rest of Latin America, and we have different proven results. Like we have increased savings drastically. We have duplicated on-time savings with different clients. We have increased by 40% on bill payment, digital bill payment transactions, and we have drastically increased digitization in different channels. So the idea of this session is highlighting how gamification can transform the way people interact with their money and why it's becoming a powerful lever for inclusion and resilience. So um, I have the honor to have three amazing panelists today joining us. Luz Gomez, VP of Research and Insights at MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth. Simon Blancard, Dean's Professor and Professor of Marketing at Georgetown University. and David Zamudio, experienced design manager at Banismo. At Flourish, we're working with the three of them in different ways. So that's why I think it's important to hear their perspectives as actors in the space. So let's discuss why gamification matters now. Let's start with it. And let's go first with you, Luz. From your perspective at the Center for Inclusive Growth at MasterCard, why is gamification becoming an increasingly relevant tool for financial inclusion today? And what are the key initiatives that the center is taking in this specific area?
Super. Well, really excited to be here. Thanks, Jorge, for the invitation, and to Acción and team for putting this together. I would say gamification and behavioral science more broadly are really powerful tools for helping to understand and influence, like you noted, positive financial behaviors. Today, people, engage with financial services online. Everything's online, everything's on their phones, and you really need to meet them where they are at that moment of decision making, and outside of traditional classrooms. So at the center, we've funded programs that have explored different gamified experiences. Obviously, we've worked with Flourish, looking at challenges, looking at progress tracking, looking at how to social share things with your peers, to make financial learning more accessible and fun. And you showed some of those things in the slides. But we want to do it, especially for those people who might otherwise feel excluded. I think what's interesting is that I think all these digital approaches, they really have an opportunity to build trust, but it's not a done deal. I think, thinking about security, thinking about cybersecurity, really at the heart of product design. And so when providers use gamification or behavioral nudges, which is broadly a part of this too, it's not just about engagement, it's about showing customers that their data is protected, that their financial health is sort of front and center. So for us, it's about building trust in the long term and not just the short term excitement of sort of playing a game. And really think that's kind of the building blocks for strengthening customer financial health. And just to give like a small example, obviously we've been working with Flourish in a couple of different countries. In Colombia, for example, we also have a small business initiative where we have partners that are working with financial service providers using these behavioral science tools, which broadly, again, gamification falls under this. And what they're solving for is sort of volatility of income of micro entrepreneurs, which makes them very financially insecure. And so we apply, working with these financial service provider, we're applying these principles like customization, nudges, again, secure digital engagement. And we're really trying to help providers improve the product designs to really help support the financial health journeys of these individuals. So that's a little bit of an example of how we're kind of engaging on this topic and why we think it's important.
Maybe if I can add here, I think you mentioned economic, volatility or income changes. I think one of the things that gamification can do really well, if well implemented, is get people to form habits that are good for them in the long term, right? Thinking about small savings, debt repayment, or budgeting, things that are otherwise difficult to do when things get tough. And that's what happens when things get tough, is you drop the good habits of putting away money every month. You drop the habit of paying your bills on time. And that's when the consequences can be most important. And that's why using gamification to really instill those habits in the long term, not just in the short term to get them to play stuff like Luz was saying, but like forming these habits so that at some point when things get tough, people are ready. And that's a part that gamification can go a long way.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it's very interesting that for us at Flourish, one of the challenges that we've been addressing is to make these changes sustainable over time, because there's like a limit between like how often you try to engage them and how easy they can stop completing these missions and everything. So with the right mix of like reward, frequency, amounts, and type of missions, we're trying to get to the point where it's sustainable over time and something that they can play along in the long term.
Yes, and I would also like to add that from a design perspective, we do a lot of research on particular products that we're always trying to improve for continuous improvement. And we hear these stories from customers, and there's always this present story of someone who is 50 or 60 years old, or even 30 or 40, and they're always saying this same story that they crash against the system, that they learn about interest payments from credit cards the hard way. They learn by going against this, and then they wish they had learned before. And then there's this big barrier for financial literacy, financial access to knowledge, that I believe gamification is very very on its way to help close that gap. It's a tool that could be used to close that gap for savings, definitely, but also for interest and managing better their finances.
Completely agree. So David, going deeper into that part, savings, interest rates, uh, around those, what are the key metrics that you've been exploring to measure the impact of gamification? Because you provide like the general view, but if you go deeper on what are you tackling with gamification mechanics?
So, so at the core of financial business is this financial intermediation, which is the difference between what you earn from loans or credit card interest, that interest, and the interest that you pay. And probably the one experience that is gamified the most to date is credit cards. Credit cards already have this gamification built in, but it's just one of the few products that have this like gamification characteristics, with points, with rewards, with miles, with traveling, uh, and that is a very like niche, like, and I say niche from a Panamanian perspective, because in Panama 45% of the population, of the adult population, has has a bank account. So there's a lot of opportunity, and credit cards is even lesser. So there's a lot of opportunity to have these. There's like a lot of blue oceans for providing a gamified experience that teaches you. But one of the challenges that we have is actually what you were asking, is defining a metric. What could be like that particular KPI that as a bank you go for, and that actually creates like some healthy conflict within the organization, which is, okay, so should we focus on increasing our bank deposits, so like having more on check-ins and savings accounts, because it's cheaper to get money from, like, as a bank, it's cheaper to get that type of money because you pay 0 to 0.25% interest on those accounts, at least in Panama, instead of like getting a loan from like another financial institution. Uh, so that is one that can be gamified that we're exploring. But there's also some other indicators that we're exploring, and it's also the payment of services. So paying your electricity bill, paying your water bill, that are all transactions that can be done from within the app, which is also like another part of where banks generate revenue from, and it's from these commissions. And it's actually, I was trying to understand better how this breaks down, at least in Panama and in Latin America. And most of the revenue from traditional banks, like the one I work for, comes from this financial intermediation. And as you progress and become more like a more digitalized bank, so to speak, you want to have, like, I think you want to have like a bigger volume coming from these commissions, like transactions and payment of services in app, and which can also, we have tracked that it can lead you to become like a become make that your main bank. So if you start paying your services and you start like transacting within that app, we have found that can lead to making that your main bank. So we're exploring. So to summarize, like the answer for the question, we're exploring deposits, and we're also exploring payments of services within the app as possible gamifying experiences, because we do believe that we have to start small and then scale. so to speak. So those are some of that we are exploring.
Yeah, I mean, and I think maybe outside of banks, I mean, so we've had a project with Flourish in Bolivia that looked at bill payments, for example, free bill payments. And I want to highlight that it's good when a bank does look at things like bill payments, because usually they're not only, incremental revenue for the bank, but they're also good for consumers from an inclusion perspective. At least in the case of Bolivia that we looked at, the bank was promoting free bill payment to users as an effort to increase share of wallet. But to users, sometimes that's something they weren't doing at all online. They were going to a small kiosk on the side of the road, and paying a couple dollars for something they didn't know they could do for free in the app. And to me, that's the biggest benefit of inclusion, which is that it can allow people to learn about behaviors that they wouldn't do otherwise, that could be in their best interest, and also, of course, helpful to the financial institution. And that's sometimes where the danger and the vilification of gamification comes in, which is it can also be used for bad outcomes. I mean, I've seen research done by colleagues at Arizona State that have shown that using badges and confettis and leaderboards can get people to trade more, right? In financial trading apps. And that can also be dangerous if you're encouraging people to make riskier financial decisions, or if you encourage them to trade more than they should. And that's on the basis of the designer and the institution to be aware of that and design systems that are careful and not taking advantage of users that might struggle with the consequences of having their behaviors encouraged.
Yeah, I think that's super important. Like when you design the experience, for example, when we work with the institutions in the product definition, defining like the point system, the rewards economy, like don't 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 make room to make it dangerous for end users, right? So they can like try to play the system, or they are just like motivated to trade more on, or do like some habits that could potentially harm their financial situation. So I think that's where we need to draw the line, and that's something that we need to at Flourish, we constantly need to put to discuss on discussion, because some of the financial institutions we are prospecting or think like gamification is like this part is like incentivizing the users to trade more, to spend more, and that's really not the idea on the core of what we are doing. So I think that's those are amazing points from both the research and real world banking situation and where you are right now. So just to move the conversation forward, I would like to go back to Luz, and looking across all the research and the initiatives that you already taking with the center, that you mentioned a few. Which one do you think is the most promising insights that you can share so far on how gamification is helping underserved community build resilience? Mostly.
Right. Well, I really like a lot of these threads. I think the whole trust issue is such a key one, right? Trust can be lost really easily, and it takes a while to build it. So like even within digital structures, so important. But I would say, Jorge, things like customization, I think, are really interesting. Financial journeys aren't a one size fits all. I think that's what I've seen through some of the work and engaging with Flourish's work. But there's other, partners of ours across the country, like Saver Life, for example, here in the U.S., that are tailoring their approaches for different customer segments, and recognizing that people's financial journeys are unique. They have unique motivations and unique needs. And so I think technology is really accelerating the ability to really customize solutions. And similarly, I think gamification works best when it's personalized. Some users respond to streaks, and badges, and others are going to be more goal setters, or want to kind of engage with their peers with comparisons. So I think understanding those differences are really critical to designing effective interventions. we worked together in Brazil, obviously, and just to share a little bit with the audience, and we worked with a couple of banks that tried some. We're going after some particular objectives, whether it's they want to help their users get reminded to pay their loans on time. So how do you do that? Engaging with different behavioral and gamification strategies. There was one engagement where they gamified around digital accounting in an app, and digitizing and gamifying that digital accounting. That engagement actually helped users complete their financial tasks by 80%, and compared to a control group. So there's ways to make sort of financially healthy decisions, in this case for their business, more fun. And so like iterating and trying things, and seeing what works, what doesn't. And that's one thing I really want to mention, that not everything works. And so being open to seeing what does work and what doesn't, and experimenting and noting that it's a real iterative process to test, to learn, and hopefully to replicate. And a lot of the work that we've been supporting is in hopes that, okay, as we find insights and interesting possibilities for replication, that we share that more widely, so that financial service providers like David's bank, for example, could replicate some of what we're seeing to help their consumers become more financially healthy. So those are just some things we've been seeing across the globe, really.
Thanks, Lucian. Yes, this is you're really setting the ground on things that we are looking for.
You're muted, Jorge, or I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
I
okay.
can.
No problem. Yes, no, I was saying that, Lucy, you're definitely like in the work that we are doing, and the different research, you're setting the ground to replicate these mechanics, incentives, and different things for other financial institutions. Can you hear me now, Simon?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I was hearing David and Luz, but I cannot hear Jorge. I don't know why. That's super bizarre.
All right. No problem.
Was that a question for me? That would be
No.
even worse. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay, perfect. So you can hear me right now, okay? Simon, or no? I think he can. Okay, so while we solve this with Simon, I'll type a question for him. But just going back to you, David, based on some of the insights that Simon shared on like designing to establish positive money habits and everything, what are other challenges that you have seen in designing gamified experiences? It can go like from implementation to user experience to the learning curve of the user to interact with these mechanics. What do you consider is a big challenge?
Yeah. So some of the challenges that we have for this is that for anything we do, since we're not a non-for-profit bank, we have to balance the value that we add to the customer with the value that we as a financial institution get. So that's always like a balance with everything that we do, gamification or included or not. That's always like a balance that we're trying to get. And some of the challenges that we've had in the process of implementing this technology are definitely there's always this classic learning curve of the concepts of what is and what is not gamification. It whenever sometimes people understand gamification like on the very basic side of it as something that that just little games that you implement in your like a Flappy Bird inside your app, and that is 100% what it is not, and it's not supposed to be. So that type of conversation sometimes happen when you're first time introducing the concepts to some other stakeholders that you're trying to implement this. But once you understand that it is about designing a behavior that has to generate value for the customer and for the business, that's where the KPIs from the previous questions come in. It has to generate a business and customer value. Then other types of questions come in. Okay, so now what's on the technical side? That's not my area of expertise. I'm more on the like the human design type of experience. Then it comes types what is an attractive reward for the customer, so that you don't want to have like some very basic reward, but you can also, as a financial institution, cannot afford like, let's go to the UEFA Champions League for every like the top scorer of of all the gamified experiences. So you have to strike a balance, and that's probably one of the toughest parts. First, crossing that knowledge gap for what is and what is not gamification, and then crossing that agreement on what to give as a reward or nothing at all, and then what is legally possible. The banking associate, like there's a lot of questions that we're still like trying to answer, but those are some of the challenges we've had as a financial institution.
Thanks, David. And adding to that, and now Simon, that you can hear me. Like from we just heard the financial institutions perspective, but Simon, based on the research you did and some of the lessons, if you could further develop on the question that was on the live chat on some advices to financial institutions that are looking to implement a reward experiences within to achieve certain metrics, and also some risks that they should avoid in the process. Like Simon, just I'm gonna go over the question and maybe further develop over your answer. That it was basically really related to what David was sharing on the first question related to metrics. And I think it's like having clear objectives and metrics that will lead to both incremental revenue for the financial institutions, but that it's always aligned to the best interest of the consumer. Well, what we do at Flourish is really we focus on the KPIs and metrics that will bring further revenue and make the relationship of the financial institution with their users better, but always having in mind that the end goal is to continue to establish different positive money habits. We have 3 minutes left for the session, 2 minutes left. So to wrap up, I just wanted to ask you, David and Luz, you both shared some great insights, both from the research and MasterCard as a key partner on this matter. And David, you from a financial institution that is currently exploring this type of initiatives, and from your design perspective, if you could in one sentence summarize, like, what is the most powerful outcome you believe gamification can unlock for financial health in the future? We can start with you, Luz.
All right. So I would say, the theme of Financial Inclusion Week, as the World Bank's fintechs study shows, is that access to financial services has made a lot of progress. And so I think the most powerful outcome for gamification is that it can unlock helping people not just access services, but actually use them in a really healthy and positive way to strengthen their well-being and financial health.
That's amazing. Yes, not focusing on activation and making them to start using, but just do it frequently and make it, like we discussed at the beginning, sustainable over time.
Exactly.
And what I would say is that gamification I think, has the possibility to accelerate the learning curve and reduce the fear, anxiety, friction that is already built within the management of your money in a bankerized world. That would be the main contribution.
Thank you, David. I think Simon added some last elements on the chat. I think we're just right on time. So no, thank you everyone. Again, all the people who took the time to join the session. I hope you got some insightful things. And again, thank you, David, Luz, and Simon for joining. For you, you are for Flourish a really key partners from different angles. So we are very grateful to have heard your voices on this relevant topic.